We're going to continue with our media availabilities here today at Phoenix International Raceway. We're going to transition to Saturday's NASCAR Xfinity Series DC Solar 200. With us today are 3 drivers who will be going after tomorrow's Dash for Cash bonus. A couple of things for everybody watching on NASCAR.com and here in the Media Center. The Dash for Cash program this year consists of 4 races: Phoenix, Bristol, Richmond, and Dover. Full-time NASCAR Xfinity Series drivers who have declared for points in the series will compete for 4 positions in the Dash for Cash events, with the winner receiving $100,000 at the end of the race. The top 2 eligible drivers in each of the first 2 stages will move on to qualify for the bonus round in the final stage. And then the highest finisher among those drivers wins the bonus. Once again, 2 Dash for Cash wins equals a race win in terms of eligibility for the playoffs, much like last year. And then this year, should one driver capture all 4 Dash for Cash awards, Xfinity will award the winner an additional $600,000, bringing the total payout to an even $1 million. In a new twist for 2017, drivers no longer need to win the final race outright in order to capture that bonus to get to the $1 million. So we are going to start right here with Justin Allgaier, the driver of the number 7 Brandt Chevrolet. Justin, you were the only driver last year to qualify for the Dash for Cash bonus at all 4 races, winning it at Indianapolis. Talk a little bit about what that meant for your team and you winning that honor.
Well, obviously, what Xfinity and Comcast do for our sport is incredible, and especially for our series. This series is a series that is so much fun and so much fun to be a part of. And the tagline "where names are made here," and I think that this program kind of goes along with that. It's allowing us as drivers, as race teams, to really thrive in situations where we're battling it out against amongst ourselves. So the teams that are running full time, and to win one last year, it's great to hold up that $100,000 check, but what that check actually means to the race teams and the money that it can put back into the programs and what it can allow us to do as drivers and as teams, I think is huge. So for me, to have 4 racetracks this year that I think are going to be awesome. If you could pick 4 racetracks, I think if I were allowed to pick 4 racetracks, I think I would have picked the same 4. So that's really cool. And then furthermore, I think just the way that we've tweaked the rules and how the bonuses are paid out, I think it's going to be awesome. And at the end of the day, these segments or stages are hard enough to complete as it is. So now we're adding a spot for to race for $100,000. I think it's going to be even more crazy, and I think the fans are going to definitely enjoy the new format.
Awesome. And then we have Brennan Poole, a driver of the number 48 DC Solar Chevrolet. Brennan, you've been through this process in Dash for Cash. You qualified for the bonus, but the win has eluded you as of yet. Does this make you a little bit more hungry as we get the program started in 2017?
Yeah, definitely. It's a cool thing that Xfinity has done, and to allow us all to race for that bonus. So, all of us want to win it. I want to win a race too, so maybe I would knock both of them out at the same time. That would be great. But yeah, it's just a lot of fun. You're battling so hard against these competitors, and everyone is so good and so tough. And to put some extra cash on the line, I think it makes it a lot of fun and interesting for all of us. And we all battle hard for it. So it was really fun to be a part of it at Richmond last year and race really hard with all those guys. We took a chance. I got my buddy taken out on that one. But so I think it creates some excitement, and it's a lot of fun for all of us to go after that. Like Justin said, it means a lot to the teams. It's extra money that we can put back into our program to make us better. Of course, I get a little piece of that too, which is nice. So, it's just fun, and I think we all of us as drivers and teams and everything feel so blessed to have Xfinity and for them to be able to do the stuff that they're doing for our sport.
All right, we will open up to questions for Justin and Brennan. We'll start here with Wolfgang, go to Jeff, and go to Lee.
Justin, a question concerning the prize money situation you mentioned briefly. What's the agreement with the team? You can keep it totally by yourself, whatever, get your payment, or you have to share it with the team?
Unfortunately, they get most of it. I did get to keep the big. Somebody called it a Happy Gilmore check last week whenever we were talking about it. So I did get to keep the cool Happy Gilmore check, but I didn't get to cash it, unfortunately. But I think, as I said, it is nice to get a part of it, but at the same time too, that's a lot of money, and that's a lot of money that's going back into these race teams that's able to help with all the expenses that we go through. And in a time where budgets are as tight as they've ever been. We're pushing as hard as we can to cut every penny possible to make sure that we can put the best product on the racetrack for the budgets that we're allowed. And so, I think for us that's a big help. It's a big boost to the team because it allows us to do things that maybe we didn't budget for at the beginning of the year.
We'll go to Jeff.
Jeff Gluck from jeffgluck.com. How does it change the how does it change the dynamic without having the Cup guys or the Cup veterans in these races?
Yeah, I mean, it's still the same. Like people ask, I feel like they ask the regulars a lot, like, oh, well, the Cup guys aren't in it this weekend, so your chances of winning are higher. I mean, they're still in top line equipment, the Cup guys, and they're still going to have a very good, talented young guy in that car, and it's still going to be tough to beat them. So I think for us, the cars that the Cup guys run are still on the track with another very competitive young driver in it. Like I think Suarez is in the 18 this week, and Eric's running the 20. So I mean, there's still super talented guys in good equipment. Ryan Blaney's in the 22. So you still have to go out and beat those guys. So for us, I don't think it's any different. We just approach it as another race, and we got to go try to get our car the best that we can get it and make no mistakes. And we want to win some extra money, but at the end of the day, you want to win the race, and you want to win some of those stages and get some bonus points and carry it over. And so, yeah, there's a lot going on, but you're a little bit more focused in on some other things.
Before we resume questions, we'll introduce a third member of our panel here. We have Matt Tifft, driver of the number 19 Surface Sunscreen Tunity Brain Gear Toyota. Matt, we talked a little bit about the program, the experience that Brennan and Justin have in it. For you as a Sunoco rookie, it's completely different. It's your first time through the Dash for Cash program. What are you anticipating and looking forward to as we get started here at Phoenix?
Well, obviously it's such a cool program Xfinity's put on for us, and this year a little bit different with not having the heat races, but doing the stages this year. A little bit like Brennan said, we're obviously the money is on the line, and we want to be able to go and get that. But at the end of the day, it is still a race, and with these stages, we still have so many points and playoff implications if you can win that. So, we definitely have a little bit more incentive to go out at the end of the race if we're in contention for that to be able to go out and compete for the Dash for Cash prize there. But it is still a race, and for myself, I want to make sure that we're in a position where we can be competing for the Dash for Cash program at the end of the race. So it's definitely an awesome program, but got to make sure we're in a strong and competitive place before we can be in that place. So you just got to put yourself in the position to be able to go out and compete for the $100,000 today or tomorrow.
All right, we'll get back to questions here. We'll go to Lee and then go up front to Kenny and to Chris.
Justin, how has open wheel racing helped you acclimate to the stages, whether it's in Dash for Cash or in, I almost said Dash for Crash, but
It could be that. You never know.
It could be that, I mean, giving your background, not in crashing, but as far as guys going for it, how has that helped you prepare for what you're seeing with the new stages and in this format?
Well, I think a lot of us grew up racing short tracks on a Friday night or Saturday night, and most of the races are 25 to 50 laps. I mean, give or take, if you're asphalt or dirt or whatever. I think sometimes as I'm going to call us endurance racers because even though we're not racing for 4 hours or 12 hours or 24 hours like you would in road racing, a lot of our races are still long, a lot longer than most other series. And so, for us, sometimes you lose the short burst 25 lap main event mentality whenever you come up here and you start racing NASCAR, especially for long periods of time. And so I think for me, going back and running a lot of dirt car stuff and open wheel and stuff where you're just all out for 25 laps, I think it's a good mix. Obviously you can't just race for the first stage and okay, now I'm done, because as Matt just said, you got to put yourself in position to make the Dash for Cash, but you also got to put yourself in position to be there at the end of the race and have a strong car. So I think it's just finding that balance, understanding what the race, kind of how the race plays out. We were just talking about watching race footage. A lot of us watch race footage each and every week to see how these races play out, when the cautions are going to come out, things like that we're used to. You can kind of set a trend if you watch 3 or 4 races. And so I think for all of us, we have to have that fine balance. So that's why I still go dirt racing. But at the same time, I think you have to balance it some way to make it work.
We'll come over here to Kenny by the windows.
Kenny Bruce with NASCAR.com. So $100,000 potential paycheck, $1 million if you win all of them. What's the most you guys have ever raced for in a single race? And also, why do you think no one's ever won the $1 million total in this?
I mean, I would say the Dash for Cash program is the most I've ever raced for, short of going for, you know, maybe being fortunate enough to race the Daytona 500 or something like that. But, you know, I think from my aspect, the reason why nobody has ever won the $1 million bonus is because this series is as tough right now as it's ever been. I mean, you look at that garage area out there, and there are 15 or 20 guys that you say, man, they're capable of winning today. Easy. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if 15 or 20 different people won out of that garage tomorrow afternoon. And I think that really shows where the series is at right now. And you've got a great mix. As Brennan said, you know, you've got Cup guys. We do still have some Cup guys, even though they're you know, not guys that aren't not eligible for the Dash for Cash. But you've got great Cup racers. You've got great Xfinity Series racers. We have a lot of guys that run one-off races, you know, all the time that are extremely talented and in good cars. You know, I think that's why nobody's ever won all of them, because it's just too hard to do it.
Yeah, I think you know, the guys that are in this garage, you know, I mean, really in NASCAR in general, are the best in the world. And we're all extremely competitive, and we all work as hard as we possibly can to be the best that we can be. And so when you're going head-to-head with those guys, you know, all of us have prepared, all of us have done the homework, and all of us are there to win the race. And that's what, it's tough. That's what makes it fun. It makes it a challenge. I know for me, you know, this is the most fun that I've had in my racing career to this point. This is my 21st season. So, you know, I think that's what makes it so great, and I think that's why the racing's been so impressive I mean, starting right off at Daytona, there were a lot of crashes, but we were all racing as hard as we can and putting it on the line, trying to win some stages and trying to advance ourselves. So, you know, same thing that, you know, you got Cup guys, you know, this week, young Cup guys in it who have all proved themselves and all won races, and you know, we all have to go up there and battle them out and prove ourselves. You know, I know, you know, Justin's proven himself a bunch of times, but Matt and I are still trying to prove that we can win at this level and beat those guys, and that you know, we're capable of racing on Sunday. So we're all just, you know, battling it out.
You know, for myself, this is definitely the biggest amount of, you know, incentive for a race to win that I've ever been a part of, which is, you know, awesome that we get to do that. But to answer your question about the, you know, why has nobody ever gotten the $1 million? If you want to sit there and you're running second place to a guy who's won 3 races, that 4th one, you don't care how many races they've won. You want to go out and win a race. So you're not going to be safe and say, oh, I'm gonna go let him go win $1 million because that's cool. At the end of the day, we're all racers. You know, every spot is so crucial, and you know, you don't care what anybody else has going on. You want to be, you know, we're all selfish as race car drivers. We want to go out and win the money or win the race. So and we have such great competition in this garage, and that's one of the things I've learned over these few weeks is how to race around those guys and get better. So that's such a cool thing, and I think, as Brennan said, you know, we're guys that are trying to prove ourselves, and this is an awesome program to be able to go out and do that and highlight some of our series regulars and guys up and coming through this series.
We'll go up here to Chris.
ChrisKnight@Chance.com for all 3 of you guys. It's often been said amongst the Xfinity competitors that racing the veteran Cup guys has made you guys better drivers. Well, now with the age restrictions, you guys won't have the opportunity to do that much racing with them because they're restricted on number of races they can run, and especially the Dash for Cash races. Do you guys like that change, or do you guys feel like that it should be adjusted a little bit?
You know, I've been fortunate enough to race against a lot of guys in the Cup Series, you know, that have come down and run the Xfinity Series. I've been fortunate enough to race with them on the Cup Series. You know, for me, I'm always learning from all the competitors. I learn a lot from these guys. I learn a lot from the guys that are Cup regulars. I mean, there weren't many people that the new rule affected a whole lot, right? I mean, there weren't a lot of guys that ran more than 10 races. There were a few, don't get me wrong, but I like the idea that it allows guys that maybe wouldn't have an opportunity before to be able to come in and drive those cars on a full-time basis, or at least a majority full-time basis. So I do like the rule from that regard. On the flip side of that, I do miss the fact that there's going to be some of these races where you're going to lose that ability to kind of learn and watch from some of the Cup veterans that have been around for a long time and pick their brain, because obviously the two garages, the cars drive completely different. How you attack the races are completely different. So, you know, I use, especially when we have Cup guys in Junior Motorsports, I use their knowledge a lot, you know, as much as I can to try and help make myself better. And I know these guys do the same thing. So, you know, it just changes the way you have to attack each race weekend. But I don't know that it really affects how we race or how hard we push or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I know they're limited, but to me, I look at it and I still see, you know, like Logano's running his 10, and Brad's going to run his 10, and you know, even a guy like Blaney's going to run a bunch, and you know, and you got Kyle Busch and Suarez and Eric Jones and those guys, and yeah, they may not have a lot of Cup experience, but they're still just incredibly talented guys, and I'm still learning a lot of things from those guys, whether one or the other is in the car. So you're still watching and learning from all those. You know, as far as the rule, I mean, you know, NASCAR made the best decision that they thought that they were making for the fans and for everyone involved in the sport, and maybe, like Justin was saying, brings up some younger guys, gives them an opportunity to jump in a car and get some seat time at a higher level and maybe help make a name for themselves and create another opportunity. And as a driver who fought really hard for his opportunity, you know, I think that's great if it opens up some seats and some other guys can get in and try to prove themselves.
Before Matt answers, we're going to actually let Justin and Brennan head on to their next obligations, and then we're going to turn it back over to Matt.
So I'll give you an example of maybe a little bit of Cup experience or knowledge that I learned off of last week. So we took tires, and Kyle did in front of us too, and I think we restarted. We were both on the outside, maybe 14, 16, something like that. I thought I had a pretty good restart. I picked up, you know, 4 or 5 spots the first couple laps, and then the caution came out a few laps later, and Kyle Busch is in third. Like, just, you know, absolutely incredible driving that he does on restarts, and that's the time where you say, okay, I've got some work to do to get to that point. And he, you know, passed some great cars, and there's some great cars around me that we moved up some, but you just go like, wow, that was impressive. So that's when you go back and watch the tape of like, okay, how did he do that? How can I replicate that and make that part of your own repertoire to, you know, just to have that skill set in your back pocket when you need to use it. So, you know, that's just an example of where the Cup guys are so good at knowing what they need to do. And Brad's the same way. So I definitely like the rule change. I think it's a good way to make sure our Xfinity Series regulars shine. But at the same time, like these guys have said, I learned a ton off of those guys. And you know, even when we have this weekend with Eric Jones and Daniel Suarez in there, I've raced with those guys for years. They're great teammates and great competitors. So there's always something to learn from them. But you know, there's still just that extra little level that you can look at guys like Kyle Busch and Brad Keselowski and Joey Logano and say, I need to get better to be able to compete. You know, they're the best in the Cup Series too, so they're not just the best in the Xfinity Series. So jumping up to that point is kind of a chance to say, what do I need to do better as a race car driver to get to where they are in their career?
All right, we have time for one final quick question for Matt before he sent him off to practice. Go to Wolfgang.
Matt, you mentioned earlier that you learn from the Cup guys. You know, you have stage races in Xfinity like in Cup. Okay, you have different cars, you have different distance. Nevertheless, are you going regularly to get some strategy advices from the Cup crew chiefs or from your Cup colleagues before you race?
Yeah, I've talked to quite a few of the Cup drivers before race weekends. I try to bounce information and questions off of them as much as I can to where it's relevant. And that's been definitely a difference this year with the stages and what we're doing now. The first couple ones, you just kind of had to feel it out, and I think everybody in the garage between all 3 series was feeling it out. So, you know, I think a lot of people talk about, I know on Sirius XM you hear them talk about all the time, Kevin Harvick said those guys that are going to go out and compete for the stages and be able to achieve those points are the ones you're going to see higher up in the point standings. And if you miss that opportunity, it's just a huge missed chance there. So I know the last 2 weeks I've made sure to put an emphasis on trying to get, you know, the most points possible if we can. So, you know, those guys, they know what the stakes are and know what they need to do. So, you know, being a full-time Xfinity driver, I need to make sure that I'm, you know, taking the best chance of grasping those points when I need to.
All right, Matt. Well, thanks for joining us today, and good luck this weekend.
All right, thank you.